It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day once again, and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio today from the Sedona Fire District. Sedona Fire Marshal Gary Johnson is here, and we've talked with Gary a number of times over the years. Good to see you as always.
Glad to be here.
Happy to have you come in today. Going to talk about something very, very important with your cohort from the Montezuma Rimrock Fire District, and that is Keith Kennedy, and a first-time visitor with us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
You're the fellow that helped us, inspired this program today with a very important project that is coming up on the Montezuma Rimrock Fire District on October 15th. It's going to be about car seat safety, child safety seats, and getting the kids buckled in. And our television viewers here alongside our radio listeners will see that we've got some car seats in studio with us today. We'll do a little demo and kind of walk through it. And one of the things that strikes me, guys, we've all seen drivers who have little ones with no safety seats at all, and that's certainly something that gets your attention. But Keith, you were saying before the program that many, if not most, car seats that are in the vehicles and are being used aren't being used correctly.
That's right, Brad. Nationally, They say 80% of child car seats are installed incorrectly, and that's the reason for these events, is to ensure that the car seats are installed properly and the child is safe.
80%,
yeah.
Most, far and away.
Yeah.
We're going down the road, and I can speak for myself and my wife. We had a car safety seat as soon as we got our little one, our first one home, and we were doing it wrong. And when that happens, Gary, it's maybe not quite as bad, or is it, as not having one at all?
Well, it kind of depends what the deficiency is. But the biggest challenge is that you have a vehicle, you have multiple manufacturers for vehicles, you have multiple manufacturers for car seats. How do we get that come together?
Right.
Well, recently, in about the last, I want to say roughly 10 years or so, they've come up with an issue called latch. And the whole concept there is that instead of using the seat belt, you're able to use clips that are built into the seat. Some cars have them, some cars don't. But even with that, I've still seen it when the vehicles, when the seat has not been installed correctly, right, or the child has not been properly put into the seat itself.
Right.
And probably, of what I've personally seen, the number one issue that I see is the little clip that you see across that little baby's chest. Mm-hmm. That clip is too far down.
Okay.
And so that's probably the number one thing that I see, that clip is down too far, and as a result, think of what's happening. If I need to see the bottom of my feet, I need a mirror. Okay. Right. But that little kid is so pliable. Look at the bottom of his feet, very flexible, and in a crash with the forces,
right,
can actually be pulled right out of that if that harness is not in its proper place.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple of the things that we see when we do inspections.
Coming up on the 15th, we referenced this, and we will a number of times again through the program. This will be, Keith, a free child safety seat inspection. Now, what do you have planned for that day?
Well, we're going to be at the Family Dollar on Beaver Creek Road, 3125 East Beaver Creek Road. Our plan is we'll have car seat techs there. They will come in, the families will come in, they'll register when they come in, pull into a lane. The car seat tech then will inspect the installation on the seat, pull the seat out. If it's wrong, if it's right, obviously we'll show them the proper points. What we're doing is instructing the parents actually on how to install the seat, and they will install the seat ultimately themselves. And then we'll ensure that it's proper, ensure that they learned the proper way to install it so they can move it from vehicle to vehicle,
right, and
that their child's in the seat safely also and properly.
Moving from vehicle to vehicle can run into a real thing.
Yeah.
Grandparents, babysitters, that happens a lot, and it seems like every time that happens, you stand to compromise, how that's
Correct.
put into the car, and then, as Gary said, the child into the seat, him or herself. And it just seems like doing that, you're bound for error somewhere along the way, and if everybody doesn't have a good idea of how these are to work and properly, we can see the potential for disaster.
That's true.
Yeah.
This event was in the works before in the beginning of last month, and last month there was a family that had a rollover up by the Sedona exit.
Right.
7 people in the vehicle, 6 of them ejected, and 1 died at the scene. And that was ironic that we had this in the works, and hopefully we can avert a tragedy again, possibly.
The fatality was a boy, a child,
right.
and apparently not properly restrained.
Right.
Yeah, and it can happen quickly. Gary, you've had terrible accidents and tragedies like this in your district under your watch over there as well. And you know, when it happens, we think, well, but that the potential is so high. I guess that's what kind of bothers me and maybe a lot of our listeners, is that with 80% of these seats not properly installed, or the children not in them, whatever it is, a problem, gosh, the potential for disasters just seems so high to me.
I think what kind of happens a little bit is just think about when you make your trip to Phoenix. You get in the car, you maybe have your cup of coffee, you're listening to the music, you get comfortable, and as you're riding down, you're probably not paying as much attention as you need to. And then the other issue comes into play: how quick do these accidents occur?
Yeah.
You're driving down the road, a split second later, something's gone wrong. May not even be your fault. You may not be the one that started this, but all of a sudden you're impacted by this. That isn't the time to think about, do I have my seatbelt on, am I properly restrained, whether it's an adult or whether it's a child. You know, we need to be prepared. It's kind of like the old deal. You know, it's like we've all been through that. Whenever I'm prepared for something, you know, then nothing happens.
Yeah.
But when I'm not prepared, that's when, you know, something breaks, when you forget something or whatever, and that's kind of like almost across the board rule. But I think it happens so quickly. And in the cases that I've been involved with, it's like 1 second everything was fine, the next second something else happened, and you know, the last one that I saw was a T-bone at an intersection.
Yeah.
The people didn't know that was happening until they were impacted by the other vehicle. Yeah. Unfortunately, in this particular case, it was a young child, had gotten out of a seatbelt because they were almost where they were going to go. Mm-hmm. And he was so excited about going there,
sure,
you know, and making that happen. But that split second made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. One of the things I heard kind of a critic of the auto industry, and they were talking about safety issues, and today's cars roll off and they are so comfortable and they are so quiet, and they've got the music and the TV and the GPS, and we almost get a sense that we're in our living rooms. We get so secure, and we get maybe a false sense of security because of that. We're going down the road at 80 miles an hour, and just think about that for a minute. What can happen if that 80 miles an hour stops suddenly? But we get that. Do you think could that be part of the reason, you know, that we just get a little too secure in there, and we have to really kind of think that, you know, we're in a defensive space here the entire time we're in our cars?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. You get very comfortable. Think about it. You know, I can remember the first car I had, hard seat, you know, basically.
Oh, you couldn't wait to get out.
And the other issue, I'm trying to think, did it even have seat belts in it? But, you know, the issues is that you get very comfortable, and it's a very comfortable, you know, the vehicles are very comfortable today, yeah. And you know there's a lot of safety devices that are built in, but we still have to, again, we have to remember that there's steps that we have to take in order for those to function properly. And that's probably what catches us off guard. But I think people as a whole, this deal is the same thing even with fires. It's not going to happen to me.
Yes, somebody else.
And it's going to be somebody else. And then when that happens, you know, it's not something that you can take back. It's not something that you can easily correct. I've been involved in accidents where we go up to the car, the child's in the car seat, we take the seat out of the car with the child in it,
right.
Take it over to the ambulance. The child's 100% fine.
Sure.
You know, a little scared because of all what's going on,
right.
But not an issue at all because the seat did its job.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a break, guys. We'll come back and we'll talk about that. And we've got some props in the studio for our TV viewers. For our radio listeners, please listen in. You may learn a lesson here today, or even more importantly, coming up on October 15th on the Montezuma Rimrock Fire. They want to make sure that your child is very safe and secure in your automobile. Short break. Countywide's back after this.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey, honey.
What's up, buddy?
Honey? I think he's been smoking pot.
Call 911. It's okay, Joey. I'm here. Can you hear me, son?
I'm right here.
Are you with
Is he
me?
breathing?
He's not responsive.
Hello?
Honey, give me a steak knife and a ballpoint pen.
What are you
now,
doing?
step. I'm gonna do mouth to mouth.
No.
You know lots of ways to help your child, but do you know what to do if they're using drugs? The partnership at drugfree.org can help.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Hi, I'm Captain Larry Dawson with the Cottonwood Fire Department, here to talk to you about cooking safety in your home. When cooking with oil, make sure you have the proper size lid and an oven mitt nearby. If the oil does catch fire, cover the pan with the lid while wearing an oven mitt. Turn off the burner. Never throw water or baking soda on a grease fire. Never leave an open flame unattended, and always have a working fire extinguisher nearby.
Like mom and dad and the big kids.
Welcome back to the program, and we appreciate today our guests, Gary Johnson, Sedona Fire, and Keith Kennedy from Montezuma Rimrock, and child safety seats. And we're talking about that, and we did a lot during the break that we were chatting about, and I want you to share it. Gary, you were saying that the biggest issue, or one of the biggest issues that you have, is even if we have the seats and they're in the cars, they're installed properly, and everything's working right, we are a little too anxious maybe sometimes to graduate from these just to the regular car seat, or maybe the child is demanding, I want to sit like daddy sits, and that kind of thing.
And that's correct. The child is wanting to, be more like an adult, or maybe their brothers and sisters, and so they don't want to sit in this car seat because they relate that as being a little kid or a baby or something. Well, the problem that we get faced with is that when they go to sit on that seat, that the adult seat belts do not fit properly.
Yeah.
They may not go across the hip properly. They may cut or not fit here properly. And so they need to make that transition to a booster seat. And this seat here on the right that we have is, there's different types of seats, but one of the seats that we're showing here today is where the child can be properly restrained within the seat itself, and then as they get older in age and weight, they're able to make that transition. You take the straps off, now they get to sit like a grown-up.
Right.
And again, it can be properly restrained because they're held back. But making that transition is so critical. And we see that a lot of times because somebody says, well, the law says. But you know what? The problem we have is kids aren't all the same size.
Right.
Some kids have longer legs. Some kids have the shorter trunk. Some kids, so as a result, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And there's a couple simple tests they can use. And one of the simplest and the easiest tests is when the child sits in the seat as an adult with their butt all the way to the back of the car seat.
Right.
Okay, all the way back. Do their legs, the knees bend all the way down?
Or are they sticking out?
Or are they sticking out?
Gotcha.
If they're sticking out, then you know what, folks? That setup does not work. They need to be in a booster.
Absolutely.
There's low back boosters that are just booster seats depending on the car they can sit in. The kid gets to look out the window, gets to see everything.
Right.
Okay. Nobody knows he's really in a booster seat,
Right.
but yet at the same token is properly restrained. And that's a key that we start to see, where people are getting better and better with these, but then the children are starting to say, Mom, I don't want to do that. And that's turning out to be one of the challenges.
Is there a rule of thumb or a general, like you say, every kid's different. They're going to demand to get in or out of that booster seat in a different way, so we deal with those issues too. But is there, Keith, is it height, weight? Is that what our concern should be when we're talking about safety seats and or booster seats?
Yes, primarily they obviously start at infant and move on up to 80 pounds basically is the top weight, where most kids are big enough to transition, short of the seat test, leg sticking out test. But we start out with rear facing with infants. That's usually 1 year, up to 20 pounds.
Okay.
And it's really important to have them facing the back of the seat. You don't want them facing forward.
Why is that? Just
infants, they've got large heads. Their heads are larger than their bodies.
Right.
The forces involved in a collision causes damage,
Gotcha.
injury.
Gotcha.
And so when they're sitting backwards and their body sits into that seat when there's an accident, when those forward forces stop.
Okay.
And this is a convertible seat. We put the infant in here, as Gary mentioned earlier. We've got the buckle right here at the armpit level. The straps are going over the shoulders and down.
Right.
As opposed to when they get older, they would want to be straps just above the shoulders.
And that's why when you look at the seats, you'll see several
when they transition
slots and selections.
Right.
Okay.
When they transition to forward.
And that nut in the
facing.
middle, Gary, that's what you referenced earlier, across the
That's
shoulder.
the harness, that nut in the middle. That is so critical. That's probably, from my standpoint, what I've seen over the years, that's the #1 issue.
the mom and dad sometimes think it's maybe more comfortable. Well, it probably is more comfortable for the child to have that slid down a little bit.
Right, and part of it is that everybody's in a hurry sometimes. So, did you put it on? Yes, you know. And
oh yeah, been there. All right.
Also, you can do a pinch test to make sure that they're snug. In other words, so you can't pinch the strap.
Gotcha.
A lot of times, these are just too loose. Again, in a hurry, don't pay attention, get complacent, and then child's just slumping around in that. From about 20 to 40 pounds, then they can come around to forward facing. It's just a general rule of thumb on weight.
Okay.
The other thing about installing the seat, when you run the seat belt through quickly, you want to force that into the seat of the car and let that seat belt pull the tension on it so there's less than 1 inch of movement side to side.
First time I ever put one in, that was the biggest problem I had, was getting it snug into the seat itself, and that can be really frustrating.
Right.
But as you say, you got to work it.
You got to work it.
Trial and error, moms and dads, a few times, and you'll.
And again, that's what we're going to try to accomplish at the event we're having.
Okay, exactly.
Correct.
And as we mentioned early in the program, it's those little things that come back to haunt us that we just maybe don't realize that we're doing wrong. And that's kind of frightening, that we think we know what's going on. We've had maybe young'uns for a couple of years now. Yeah. But everybody can probably benefit by learning more and learning how to do this properly. Again, this event comes up on Saturday, October 15th. It'll be 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This will be at the Family Dollar Store out in the parking lot, I assume.
That's right.
Right out there, so folks can drive on up.
Right.
Moms and dads, bring the baby with you, along with the car seat.
Right. We need the children with them.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
so we get them.
We're flying blind, so to speak.
Get them in there snug. It'll be a child safety seat inspection. This is free, and it's sponsored by Montezuma Rimrock Fire District and some other agencies coming together. They want you to have a safe ride out there for you and your little ones. Let's go ahead and take a little break. When we come back, we'll talk more about this issue. Keith Kennedy, Gary Johnson, our guests in studio today. It's countywide. We're back right after this.
Now, some action from the courts. Billie Jean King renewing her rivalry with Arthritis. First set, furious volley, and right to the net for a winner. Beautiful forehand there. Arthritis, stunned. And here, match point. Billie Jean with the ace, taking it in straight sets. Afterwards, a jubilant Billie Jean King.
Tennis is a weapon for me with arthritis. There's nothing like it for me to hit a ball, run to the ball, anytime, any court. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's your weapon against arthritis? Find out at fightarthritispain.org.
Packers. Viking. Packers. Viking.
Viking. Red state. Blue state. Vegan.
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown. Downtown.
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities, our families, united. Even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
Hungry? Yeah. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Hi, I'm Captain Larry Dawson with the Cottonwood Fire Department, here to talk to you about cooking safety in your home. The #1 cause of house fires today is lack of safety in the kitchen. Always set a timer while you're cooking. If a fire starts in your oven, close the door and turn the oven off. When kids are present while cooking, always use the back burners and keep handles turned in and out of reach of children. Never leave an open flame unattended, and always have a working fire extinguisher nearby.
Welcome back to the program, Countywide. Keith Kennedy, Gary Johnson today, firefighters, protectors of safety for a long, long time, guys. And I always want to say to you folks, thank you for what you do and your dedicated service. And one more example of that comes up on the 15th of October with a child safety seat inspection event. And we'll tell you more about dates and times in just a moment. But first, Gary, we had a question the guys sent in, and a good one, about expectant parents. Can they come to this clinic? Will we be able to help folks? Maybe the baby's not here yet.
Well, you bet, because typically typically what you'll see with an expectant parent is a two-part installation. You know, they want to have the carrier, which is ideal. You can take it in the house, you can take it to the hospital, you put the baby in it. You have what they call a base. What we'll do is we'll install the base for them, show them how it's done, make sure they understand how to install it. Right. And then at that point, and give them some pointers. Then when they go to the hospital, where they're at is they bring the carrier and the hospital give them support. So, you know, that's pretty critical. And the best part about that is they start off correctly in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a plus.
You're off and running, you've got your baseline, you know where to go.
Yes.
Keith, talk to me real quick about the front seat, back seat issue. Pretty much every car seat maker you'll see, kids ought to be in the back seat as long as you can keep them in the back seat.
That's basically it. For as long as you can keep them. Never put a child in the front passenger seat with the airbag systems
right.
that are good safety systems for adults. They're a death trap for children.
Even if the car carrier is facing backwards in the passenger seat,
right.
that airbag still poses a...
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, the back seat's more safe generally for anybody, no matter who you are in an automobile. Before we go into the front seat, a child should be, my oldest is as tall as me now, and now he wants to ride in the front seat, and I let him. He's about 140 pounds. There's adults that are smaller than that, so I figure
right.
I'm okay.
Right, how old is he?
He's 13.
That's the age that we're looking at.
And generally speaking, they're going to be big enough. And
correct.
It seems like when that seat, the way your own car seat will fit you, when it's got that recoil, think about how snugly that pulls you. If it's set up the right way, right. That's what we're talking about with these, isn't it? Or might these even be a little tighter?
Well, when you think about the advantage, with a small child, remember, they're in that restraint where there's very little movement.
Yeah.
So you know, Keith pointed out that we kind of pinch the top and the top of that strap right. to make sure that it's tight enough. So we pinch that strap to make sure that it's tight enough against the body. But as they make that transition into the booster seat, that's when they end up going into what I call the adult restraint. That's what they're using. Again, the booster seat is designed to position the child properly for that adult. And okay. You are absolutely correct. Think about what happens when you move quickly in your car. All of a sudden you can't move because the safety device does its job.
Right.
And that's what you're being faced with.
It's a phase-in process. Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to wrap up the show, fellas, and let's do this by leaving with our listeners, our viewers today. Once again, exactly, do I have to live in the Montezuma Rimrock Fire District to be part of this?
This is a cooperative from Flagstaff to Phoenix. This is all volunteer. The techs are volunteering their time. We will be replacing old, broken, and recalled car seats when needed. We'll have car seats available, and those are made available through the Coconino County Public Health Services District. Heather Taylor from up there, John C. Lincoln Hospital, North Mountain in Phoenix with Lori Moxon. Those are both their injury prevention coordinators. Also, Verde Valley Fire Department, Sedona Fire Department, and Montezuma Rimrock Fire Department have been instrumental in putting this event on, and we'll be there supporting the techs.
Yeah, you want to do it the right way. We want these guys don't like to get calls out on the highway and find terrible things, and we can help do that and help keep your family safe. 10 to 1, the Family Dollar Store, and that's on East Beaver Creek Road in Rimrock. And again, this will be on October 15th, so a week from this coming Saturday. And as the guys have told you, there's probably nothing more important if you have kids in your family than making sure that they have a safe ride. Old, broken, and recalled child safety seats. We get the recall now and again. There's a manufacturer's defect or an issue. Boy, pay attention to those, huh?
Absolutely. And if a seat is replaced, we register that seat in case there is a recall with the parent's name, and they'll get notices then, as maybe you have with your child.
Very good. Guys, again, thank you so much for what you do every single day, but for coming on the show today and passing the word out to everybody. October 15th, Family Dollar in Rimrock, 10 to 1, and the guys will help you get set up. Safe ride for the kids. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
All right, it's countywide. We'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.